Good evening. I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Wendell Town Board of Commissioners and welcome everyone here. We have a lot of folks with us tonight. We're happy to have all of you here. We're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Police Chief Bill Carter.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. For our invocation tonight from the Wendell Council of Churches, we are going to hear from St. Eugene's Catholic Church, Ray Riley.
Thank you.
Evening.
Thank you. Please bow our heads. God the Father, look kindly on this group that trusts in you. During this gathering, as they discuss and reflect on important issues, help them to hear your voice. Give them wisdom and discernment, prudence in judgment, firmness in decision, and wisdom in planning. May diversity of views come together in common goals for the needs of all. Anoint their projects, ideas, and energy so that even their smallest accomplishment may always bring glory to you. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Public comment period. There are three ways that you can participate in public comment, or two ways, I'm sorry. You can sign up for public comment the night of the meeting if attending in person, and you have 3 minutes to speak, as indicated by the lights on the podium. Or you may submit written statements via email to the town clerk on the Friday before the board meeting on Monday. Please include your full name and address for the record, and all written comments timely received will be read into the record for the length of 3 minutes. You also have 3 minutes. We have 3 people signed up tonight, and the first is Roger Peterson. Give us your name and address, please.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Roger Peterson. I live at 4490 Wendell Boulevard in Wendell. I also serve as Executive Director of the Wendell Chamber of Commerce, and I come to you tonight in that capacity. Every year, the Wendell Chamber of Commerce and its more than 225 members meet to review the results of the previous year, celebrate those results, and have brief conversations about what's going to happen, in this case in 2023. We've had that meeting recently at the town's community center, and I come here tonight to thank you. As a board for allowing us to use the property, as individuals for participating in the events, but I really come to thank the town staff. I think everybody in the Parks and Rec Department helped us at some point in the days leading up to and the day of the event, so definitely want to thank them. Jeff, you and your staff. From the police department, Officer Josh Harper was there that night. Even though I couldn't make him eat the food, he was there, and we appreciate him being there. And certainly one of the big honors for us is to host the presentation of the Mayor's Award. And worked closely with the town manager, assistant town manager, to make that happen and keep it a secret. And so a big thank you again from the Chamber of Commerce and all of our members.
Thank you for hosting that for us. We really appreciate it. Corey Bassett.
I'm here to speak about a particular project that would be possible to wait until the project be discussed.
Is it a public hearing that we're going to be having? Well, you can wait until that time. That's fine. Thank you. And Ray Hennett.
My name is Ray Hennett, and I live at 205 Dogwood Trail in Wendell, and I'm here to speak in favor of an item on your agenda where Capital Area Preservation is requesting a loan from the town to preserve one of the most beautiful places we have left in the Wendell area. This is the Hood Anderson Farm It's, close to Hepzibah, and, they are requesting a loan to get the house suitable to find someone who will purchase it, restore it, and they have all sorts of stipulations that they have to abide by once they do that, that it won't be, changed, from what it was originally intended to be. Capital Area Preservation has done this in several other towns, main examples of Cary, Apex, and Fuquay Varina. The Anderson Farm has the first post office in Wendell, and there's not many people probably in here that remember it, but it was a one-room post office that I believe was in operation up into the 60s. There's a lot of historic buildings around this building. This is a Greek Revival building built in the early part of the 17th century. And if I had one word to describe it, it would be handsome. It is a handsome house, and it could be a beautiful house. The Wendell Historical Society is strongly in favor of your approving this. Through nobody's fault, we're losing our history every day. So this is an excellent opportunity to step up and help somebody keep our history, and as a loan, you get your money back. So we recommend it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
We have no recognitions and reports tonight, presentations. So we're going to move right into our public hearings. Item 5A is a public hearing for a contiguous annexation of an 11.88 acre parcel, PIN number 17849268344, located at 608 Old Zebulon Road. Mr. Coates.
Yep. Good evening, Mayor and board members. The first public hearing of the three for this evening. This is a 11-acre annexation request at 608 Old Zebulon Road. The property owners have recently purchased this, would like to construct a home there. As we said, the parcel's a little over 11 acres. Here's a map showing the location. The dark blue on this map is our existing city limits. The light blue is some ETJ. So the property sits right in between the future Northside Park area, Pepper Point area, and then Deer Lake Trail to the east. Parcel's located in our ETJ. It has two different zoning classifications, residential 2 and residential agricultural. The applicant has submitted a building permit to construct a single-family dwelling on the parcel. A rezoning is not required to construct that home. There is an existing municipal water line that runs along the property frontage along Old Zebulon Road. Municipal sewer is to the south. There is a force main that's on that part of Old Zebulon, but you can't just tap in for a single-family house to a force main since they're pressurized. So municipal service for sewer is a little over 1,000 feet away, either south on Old Zebulon or through potential easements to the subdivision to the east, but there's various properties in between. So therefore, sewer connection is not considered available at this time. The proposed annexation is contiguous, would require services from the town's police, public works, parks and rec. For a single-family home, impact for service delivery is minimal. Secondary service would be for other town departments. It's already in the local fire district. Planning staff is recommending approval of that contiguous annexation request. I can field any questions that you have at this time.
All right. Any questions from the board? All right, let's open the, go ahead and open the public hearing. Does the applicant wish to be heard? Is the applicant here?
The applicant is here but has nothing else to
All right.
enter into the record.
Are there any members of the community that would like to speak in favor or in opposition to this project? All right, we'll close the public hearing. Nothing else from the board. What's y'all's pleasure?
Madam Mayor, I move we approve the contiguous annexation A2215 and adopt the attached ordinance.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the annexation and adopt the accompanying ordinance. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. All right, item 5B is a public hearing to annex and rezone approximately 41.67 acres from Town of Wendell Rural Agricultural to Neighborhood Center to create a mixed-use development containing commercial office, multifamily apartments, and townhomes at 0 Wendell Falls Parkway and 1801 and 1825 Martin Pond Road. Mr. Coates.
Yep. Good evening. The request tonight is to hold a public hearing and make a motion to adopt the attached ordinance. Applications have been received for the annexation and rezoning of approximately 41.67 acres located at the intersection of Wendell Falls Parkway and Martin Pond Road, currently in our ETJ and zoned rural agricultural. The conditional district request includes a rezoning of the property from RA to Neighborhood Center Conditional District to create a mixed-use development. The applicant's proposal contains a maximum up to 200,000 square feet of commercial/office, 300 multifamily units, and 200 townhomes. The overall site plan was included in your packet. Impact to town services. The proposed annexation would require services from the town's police, public works, and parks and rec departments if annexed. Secondary service impacts will be for planning and other departments. The property is already served by the Wendell Holmes Fire District. Water and sewer are readily available to the property through our service area agreement with the City of Raleigh Utilities. And as far as the future use, the master plan contains those components, and we'll go over each one of those. Project setting, the area to the northwest of the site is within the Wendell Falls Plan Unit Development, is currently under construction to include an apartment community with townhomes, as well as a veterinary clinic at the intersection of Wendell Falls Parkway and Martin Pond Road. Wendell Falls has also created 3 other additional commercial lots along the parkway just east of the vet center, just north of this proposed area. The area to the northeast includes farmland and a few residential homes. The area to the west, across Martin Pond, contains single-family homes as part of the Wendell Falls community. The area to the south is woodlands, farmland, and residential. The area to the east includes Central Baptist Church and other additional residential uses. There's a site map. Proposed rezonings here in this Carolina blue. The ECU purple to the northwest is the Wendell Falls Planned Unit Development. Central Baptist is further here to the east, and you can see as we get closer to the Eagle Rock intersection, that area has been rezoned neighborhood center as well. Overall site plan. Commercial component is at the intersection with Martin Pond Road, contains potentially office buildings, retail, could be up to 4-story buildings is their request. The middle section is multifamily, and we'll go over some of the details of this with the amenities. And then on the eastern part, transitioning back to the church, is the townhome community. And they are proposing to donate 1.7 acres to Central Baptist as part of their proposal. Neighborhood center districts are areas coded to provide for residential and mixed-use development in close proximity to existing and planned neighborhood centers. The intent is to create higher density residential areas that complement commercial districts with physical proximity and pedestrian connectivity. Different housing types and lot styles are encouraged. Development in this district should encourage pedestrian use through connections to adjacent neighborhoods and the construction of mixed-use buildings. So the zoning district has potentially 3 different uses. So for the townhomes, they are meeting the setbacks, and in condition number 8, which we'll go over the zoning conditions, they're committing to a minimum 20-foot driveway length. So they're meeting all the UDO requirements for townhomes in a neighborhood center district. Lot dimensions for apartments. They are asking for a zoning condition which would allow up to 4 stories. Neighborhood center currently allows 3-story buildings, and we'll go over some details of the neighboring projects as well. The commercial, they are asking for a lot width of down to 25 as a minimum if needed, and they are asking for a maximum height of 4 stories up from the 3 that's required. Other than that, they're meeting our conditions. I'm going to go over the zoning conditions. These are, the applicants propose the following zoning conditions. Amenities will include, but are not limited to, for the apartments, they'll have one clubhouse with fitness center, business center, co-working space, one swimming pool with grilling stations, dog park, and then outdoor pergola shade structure in that area. Townhomes, they're proposing one village green, one playground, one courtyard commons, one mail center, and one dog park to serve that portion. And the dog park will have its amenities such as a sunshade structure, benches, and some dog activity apparatus. The community will have an entry feature that will be installed at the intersection of Wendell Falls and Martin Pond, in addition to two monuments, one for Parcel B, which is the apartment community, and one for Parcel C, which is the townhome community. They put maximum of 330 multifamily units. Currently, the site plan shows 300 units, 200 townhomes, and up to 200,000 square feet of non-residential shall be permitted. Any increase or decrease in these densities shall be allowable if an engineer's certification is provided to confirm trip generations and sewer demands do not exceed maximum volumes included in the TIA in preliminary sewer analysis for the project. Parcel A may modify the number of buildings with administrative approval. The site plan showing 3, but depending on the commercial components, there could be, let's say, 4, or there could be 2, depending on how the buildings are designed. They are requesting shared parking for a parking reduction may be utilized to accommodate parking for the non-residential uses on site. Architectural standards, no vinyl siding is to be used. Clubhouse is to consist of brick veneer, fiber cement lap siding and fascia. Architectural asphalt shingle roof, no vinyl. Windows, however, may be vinyl. Apartments consist of fiber cement board and bat and fiber cement lap siding and fascia, asphalt shingle roof, and then again no vinyl siding. Townhomes, primary facade cladding shall consist of fiber cement board or similar material. Each unit shall utilize a choice or combination of siding orientations such as horizontal board and batten or shake. No vinyl siding will be permitted, however trim of windows, soffits, and fascia may utilize vinyl. Front facade shall utilize masonry or brick veneer and have accent elements like a water table or columns. Each unit shall be staggered either horizontally or vertically, a minimum of 1 foot. All end units shall have windows on the side walls. Condition number 6, a minimum of 3 townhome types will be provided within Parcel C. In your packet, there's images of those townhome images. Townhome types to include at least 1 3-story rear-loaded garage townhome, 1 2-story rear-loaded garage townhome, and 1 front-loaded garage townhome. This condition deals with a mixture of housing types and unit sizes. Front-loaded garage townhomes are to be permitted only where they do not back up to another proposed townhome unit. Street-facing garage doors shall have windows or carriage-style adornments. Residential driveway length shall be a minimum of 20 feet, condition 8. 9, residential alleys are to be 20 feet in width, paved surface, or may utilize the town standard residential alley section. Lot and dimensional standards are as follows. So this is where they're asking for 4 stories for the commercial and apartments, where neighborhood center zoning allows 3. And on that condition, so to the north, the apartment community that staff will refer to as Spectrum as part of the Wendell Falls community, those buildings under construction are 4-story internal elevator and allowed under the PUD of Wendell Falls for that height. The apartments that were built behind Publix, Brea, those are 4-story internal elevator, and these are similar proposal, internal elevator, 4-story apartment community. Zoning condition 11, Parcel A, the non-residential portion of the property shall be exempt from the gateway overlay buffer requirement. And this is to create that commercial node at the intersection so that there's a plaza, outdoor seating, and amenities that are attractive for people who live nearby or are traveling in the area. Condition 12, a modified 10-foot gateway overlay street yard consisting of a 4-foot high decorative split rail fence with masonry columns and plantings, will be installed at a minimum rate of 3 canopy trees or 6 understory and 12 shrubs per every 100 linear feet. Condition 13, in lieu of a 20-foot type B buffer, a 10-foot type B buffer is provided with a 6-foot privacy fence. I have it highlighted in yellow because that was added after the packet went out on Wednesday. The property owner, Mr. Richardson, requested the fence, and Dan Ryan Builders, the builder of the townhomes, agreed to install that fence. Condition 14, to assist in creating a unique community feel, maximize the aesthetic appeal, minimize impervious surface area, maximize open space, and create a pedestrian, townhome units may be oriented onto courtyards or village greens instead of fronting on a public right-of-way. These units will be very kind of similar in layout to Griffin Square in Wendell Falls, where the fronts are actually opened up onto open space, and the street side is the garage side. And so they're proposing a similar option for a few streets where the garages will face the alleys, which will function as a street, and then they'll front onto open space. Zoning condition 15 is to prevent a surplus of parking and maximize the appeal. Multifamily units will be parked at a minimum of 1 space per bedroom. A minimum of 5% visitor parking for townhomes and multifamily units shall be provided by utilizing the provided on-street parking spaces, which are designed throughout the community. Parcel D is identified on the master plan as to be dedicated to the adjacent church, Central Baptist, for use as athletic fields, recreation, open space. Condition 17, the residential Main Street section, which runs east-west through the community, shall be permitted in the neighborhood center zoning district unless otherwise noted. The residential Main Street section will be modified to provide a 6-foot sidewalk and a 6-foot landscape strip. Currently, that Main Street section provides for a 5-foot sidewalk. The east-west collector road that they're proposing as the Main Street runs through all 3 segments of the community: the commercial, the apartment, and the townhome portion. A 10-foot multi-use path shall be provided along Martin Pond Road. The path may utilize the use of a public access easement along the property frontage to accommodate the full 10-foot path section. The subject property shall reserve the right to utilize a portion of the path and public access for property maintenance for items such as proposed stormwater facility as required. Condition 19, an alternative wastewater sewer alignment may be utilized per City of Raleigh Public Utilities Department approval. Condition 20, the permitted use table, they're requesting to add some additional uses that would not be permitted in neighborhood center. Currently, townhomes or multifamily would need a special use permit. They're asking that they be permitted uses. They also added childcare, microbrewery, and then some retail shopping center classifications that are currently not in the neighborhood center or not permitted at this time. And then condition 21, the last, is the townhome portion of the master plan is not a build for rent product. So there's 21 zoning conditions. The applicant is here as well to answer any questions, and I'll continue through some of the other topics. Public utilities, they're requesting connection to municipal water and sewer, which is adjacent. Environmental, the proposed plans show the development creating 3 stormwater control measures to be used for stormwater management. The 3 ponds are located along the southern border of the properties, and each serve the appropriate phase. Buffers, UDO requires a 10-foot type C buffer between neighborhood center and other residential zoning. However, when a more intense use is proposed next to single family, a type B buffer is required. The applicant is providing a 10-foot type C buffer along the southwestern property line and a 20-foot type B along the southeastern portion that abuts single-family homes. The applicant's providing a 10-foot type B buffer with a 6-foot privacy fence along the border of the residential property on the northern border of the townhome phase. And then the proposed development contains a 10-foot gateway buffer with decorative fence along Wendell Falls Parkway and is part of zoning condition number 12. Open space, they are providing, the plan requires a minimum of 8 acres. They're providing 11. 2.7 of that's improved, and 1.3 is considered active. The active includes clubhouse, swimming pool, fitness center, playground. The applicant's also providing a dog park, grilling area, and a village green. Streams and wetlands. Current development plan does show the locations of streams and wetlands. No floodplains exist on the property. The existing stream on site requires a 50-foot noose riparian buffer, which is measured from the top of the stream bank. The applicant's not proposing any development in that noose riparian buffer. Transportation. I'm going to read this slide, but then we have some maps to go with it, so it might be a little easier. So UDO requires a TIA for a project with this scope as it exceeds the 100 peak hour trips per day. TIA was completed using 336 multifamily units, 200 townhomes, and a shopping center of 44,000 square feet. TIA contains the following improvements: traffic signal at the second site drive that aligns with Wendell Falls development to the north, a full travel lane from Martin Pond Road to 300 feet past the first site drive, which is on the eastern side, a 300-foot travel lane between the first and second drives, a 100-foot right turn lane from Wendell Falls Parkway onto the third site drive, a 50-foot right turn lane from Wendell Falls to the second site drive, 50-foot left turn from Wendell Falls Parkway onto the first site drive, and a 50-foot left turn lane into the second entrance. You can see current laneage is in the white arrows. Additional laneage is everything that's in a black arrow. You can see additional turn lanes, a full lane across the front, and then site drive 1 is the furthest east, and the lane has to merge back in as it exceeds off their site. So various turn lanes. Scenario number 1, the difference between scenario 1, I'm going to show you the scenario 2, is full access off of Martin Pond, which would require an additional turn lane on Martin Pond into the commercial portion. Our transportation plan, arterial and collector street plan, identifies Wendell Falls as a future 4-lane median divided roadway. Four-lane median divided roadway contains 110-foot right-of-way, includes 12-foot travel lanes, 5-foot bike lanes, 6-foot sidewalks, and 7-foot planting areas in street trees. In this case, along Wendell Falls Parkway, we have been requesting, and developers have been granting, a 10-foot multi-use path instead of that 6-foot sidewalk. And that can either be in the right-of-way or could be in a public easement. We've had either option. Martin Pond Road is identified as a future 3-lane undivided roadway that contains a 79-foot right-of-way, 12-foot travel lanes, 3 of those, 5-foot bike lanes, 6-foot sidewalk, and 7-foot planting strip. The applicant will be dedicating the additional right-of-way, making the improvements, and including a 10-foot multi-use path instead of the 6-foot sidewalk. The arterial and collector street plan also has a 2-lane minor collector that runs north-south in this area. When plans were submitted, the initial lineup with the transportation plan shows this being connected through the neighborhood to the south. Taking an existing DOT roadway, lining it up with a collector for a town road that has a 67-foot right-of-way with sidewalk, street trees, curb and gutter, they don't line up too well. So they moved it a little to the west so that when the property to the south develops, so it won't disturb the existing neighborhood to the south, but we'll still get that north-south connection to connect Wendell Falls to Pool Road. Local streets, as we mentioned, they're doing a residential main street, which includes on-street parking, and then they're also meeting our standards for local streets and alleys as part of their proposal. Phasing, you can see the phasing breakout here. Parcel A is roughly 5.8 acres, contains the commercial office component. Applicants requesting up to 4-story buildings, 200,000 square feet max. Parcel B is roughly 15 acres, contains 300 multifamily units in 4-story buildings with internal elevator for access. Parcel C is 18.9 acres, contains 200 townhomes, and the applicant's proposing at least 3 townhome styles with a mixture of height and garage locations. Parcel D is 1.7 acres and will be deeded to the adjacent property owner, Central Baptist Church. Comprehensive plan classifies this area as Activity Center 2. Activity Center 2 could have a mix of uses from commercial, grocery, pharmacy, retail, restaurants, to townhomes, multifamily units, event space, retail, a variety of open space, and street types. Adding childcare, mid-sized general retail, microbrewery, and shopping center is consistent with the land uses identified in Activity Center 2 in the comp plan. There are 2 types of housing proposed within the development: multifamily rental units and townhomes for sale. The multifamily rental units will have amenities such as pool, clubhouse, fitness center, grilling station, and dog park. Townhome community will have their own amenities and will contain a mix of alley and front-loaded units as well. Comprehensive plan centers of activity. Goal 1 is to support development of key nodes, large and small, where commercial uses can be concentrated and benefit from proximity to each other. Consistent with the future land use map, delineate centers of activity where the more intense development of mix of uses can be accommodated. Current land use plan has this as Activity Center 2. Previous plan had this as a commercial node as well. Neighborhood and housing goal 3, diversify housing to appeal to different groups, age, income, lifestyle preference, and family situation. The mix of townhome type is certainly beneficial for the neighborhood. Having multifamily and townhomes is consistent with nearby uses. Economy goal 1, support development of key nodes where commercial uses can offer the most benefit. The intersection of Martin Pond and Wendell Falls Parkway is certainly one of those intersections. It is a node of some commercial already, will be more as Wendell Falls continues to build out, and this project, from a staff perspective, extends those types of uses at that intersection. Connectivity goal 2, improve the connectivity, robustness, and resiliency of the transportation system within and near Wendell. Connect neighborhoods to downtown with greenways or a 10-foot side path along major corridors. The developer is providing that 10-foot side path along Martin Pond and Wendell Falls Parkway. Statement of plan consistency and reasonableness. Any recommended change to the zoning map should be accompanied by a statement explaining how the change is or is not consistent with the comp plan and is not reasonable in nature. The proposed development and conditional district rezoning are consistent with Blueprint Wendell 2030 since they're consistent with the Activity Center 2 place type, and they support the following recommendations. Centers of activity goal, neighborhood and housing goal 3, the economy, market, economic development, support development of key nodes, connectivity, and connecting neighborhoods with the major corridors. Planning Board action. At their May 16, 2022 meeting, the Planning Board voted 7-0 on the motion to recommend approval of the rezoning request. TRC comments. Technical Review Committee has completed their review of the applicant's master plan, and the applicant has made corrections based on their comments. Additional review would occur upon submittal of construction drawings, which is considered final development plan for conditional districts. The applicant did hold a neighborhood meeting October 13th, 2021, with 4 people in attendance. The meeting notes are included in your packet. Just key to note that they held that neighborhood meeting before it was a requirement for the town. We had recommended it at the time, and they did that. Staff's recommendation is that it's consistent with Blueprint Wendell, and we recommend approval of the conditional district rezoning. The applicant is here and does have a PowerPoint. I can field any questions that you have at this time.
Okay. Go ahead and open the public hearing. Are there any questions from the board?
I have a handful, if
Go ahead.
it's all right to do them now. And Brian, if any of these you want me to wait and ask the applicant later, that's fine.
Okay.
For the phasing of the A, B, C, D, are those like in that order? I think I understand what phasing means, but I just wasn't super explicit.
No, and I can let the development team answer the questions. The builder has identified for the apartments, the builder is identified for the townhome. The commercial is not fleshed out at this time. so there's no specific design. All phases would need to submit construction drawings for the utilities, off-site improvements first, and then submit for their townhome portion or the multifamily. But at this time, we're not aware of any commercial component that's been finalized at this time.
So for our purposes with the conditions, there's not a condition that they happen in that order, it's just these are the phases of.
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you. And then similarly with the townhome section, those three different types, are they there's a map that kind of shows where the three types are located? I know the condition says there are at least three types.
Yep.
Is that where those three types will be, or is that just an example of what that could look like?
The images in your packet are examples of what those types could look like. And then the option is there could be additional than just the three.
Gotcha. Condition number 18, I think this is just really a typo, but you're missing the 10-foot, like at the second word of the condition. I think it's just.
Yeah.
Okay, just
Yep.
want to make sure.
Thank you.
And I thought that was what you said, so I just want to make sure that's what it was. Really just a awareness thing. And condition number 5 on the townhouse, breaking up the facades, what's a water table?
Water table is at the base, roughly maybe 2 or 3 feet from the base up, would be brick or stone or some kind of material to break up the front facade.
Okay. And then last one is just about I know we talk sometimes about signal distances on DOT facilities, but also all highways. I think about Wendell Falls Parkway, obviously. I know I've talked about some of that connectivity of that corridor, getting folks to the highway from downtown, similar on Wendell Boulevard, and preserving as much of that throughway movement as possible. With the additional signal that this would place, can you talk a little bit about the distance between those, the existing signal at Martin Pond, this one, and then also, whatever you want to say with that, throw in whether or not we know if pedestrian crossing will be there with the new commercial, it'll be on the north side?
So what I can say is DOT has approved that intersection to be signalized, so it meets their intention and their regulations of distance. It's not been fully designed yet at this stage, but certainly we'll have pedestrian crossings as there'll be commercial node across the street and full like sidewalks, multi-use path, things like that. So,
Awesome. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Anyone else?
I just have a few, sorry, just a few things of clarification as well. I know you said it several times with, there's no vinyl siding, and I pack it on page 36, and just point 9, it just talks about, any single-family attached or multifamily residential dwelling is constructed with vinyl siding. I'm just making sure that's not, is it
So
maybe old or that?
is that in their application? I think, so we
I think it is, yeah, 'cause
yeah.
it's further, it's in a different spot.
So we include their original application, which has the original conditions, but
Okay.
what's before you tonight are the 21 conditions in the ordinance.
Just making sure.
Yes.
And then in the open space, the 11 acres that you had, this did not include the fields that they were deeding over to this church, did it?
No, so once the acreage is deeded over to the church, we don't count that as open space because it's not public open space. It's for the church to use. And there may be public events there, but for us, we don't consider that open space since it won't be open to the community at large. So it's not included in our calculations.
And then again, just from my knowledge as well too, I know this doesn't address the intersection, or it showed the Pool Road intersection into Wendell Falls Parkway on the map. Was that already addressed in another previous plan as far as any kind of signalization or anything at that intersection, or is that all that will be at that, just turn lanes only?
So it would be turn lanes only.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want to make sure, thank you.
Mr. Joyner?
Brian, the condition 5, architectural standards, eaves of home, or eaves specifically, I guess the townhome products, I don't see included in there, and I don't know that I've seen it. I know I've heard it discussed previously, but I haven't seen it. I recently saw a Dan Ryan product that did not have eaves, and just wanted to get their thoughts on that.
I can let them come up and address that.
Anything else? Anything?
I'll wait till
Okay.
the developer.
All right, let's hear from the applicant.
Hi, thank you. My name is Brian Richards with Urban Design Partners, here representing the development team, and I'll kind of run through this. Brian, as usual, does such a thorough job, I probably will go pretty fast. Kind of covered everything. And so we do have representatives from DRB Group and Merit Group. DRB Group will be building the townhomes, and Merit Group will be working on the multifamily project as well, so they're here to answer any questions you may have, as well as Representative Ramey Kemp, who's here to answer any transportation and traffic problems, questions you may have. I'll kind of skip through this, kind of through the process. So neighborhood center, walkable, I mean, that's really been one of the biggest focuses for this is targeted to be a mixed-use activity center with really focusing on walkability and connectivity in this, and we'll kind of point that out in the master plan as we get through it. So again, Brian's kind of run through a lot of this. One of the main things I want to point out as you look through the master plan is really the pedestrian connectivity, kind of running from the townhome portion as well as the church property. You'll see we'll provide the ability to have connectivity to the church property if desired, and then primary accesses along the streetscapes as well as north-south to Wendell Falls Parkway, as well as through the site on that east-west connector with enhanced pedestrian crossings and connectivity, including where the what you discussed with the signalized intersection with connectivity to the commercial proposed across the street. So really focusing on the pedestrian connectivity, activity, open space, and connecting those amenities. Traffic improvements, transportation. So there will be improvements along Wendell Falls Parkway, as well as Martin Pond Road, as well as a multi-use path. I think one of the things that we've worked with staff on is adding a multi-use path along Martin Pond Road. Part of that will be positioned in an easement in order to create that connectivity and add that additional pedestrian connection, as well as something that could potentially be kind of integrated into that future commercial development as well with the entry plaza that is located at the corner. And again, this has been reviewed and looked at, all these improvements with NCDOT and those improvements. Really just focusing on the amenities. I mean, the townhome development is really built around that central green activity and open space for play and having a playground for kids and families, as well as a dog park, and again, connected to those really strong pedestrian connections through the site. And then the amenities, one of the things that's been kind of revisited is getting some of that street presence up along Wendell Falls Parkway with the buildings and going to the 4 stories and integrating the clubhouse into that upfront building to get a little bit more of a streetscape along the frontage, that feel of a mixed-use building, and amenities and activity. And that's really been a focus of the design team here over the last several months. And then just the quality of the materials and activity. And then one of the questions was about the different types of housing types, particularly in the townhomes. So the intent really is a transition. So if you go from those 3- and 4-story apartment buildings across that east-west spine or north-south spine road to a 3-story townhome that's rear-loaded, and then kind of stepping down to 3- and 2-story unit mixes. Really, there's about 5 different types of units being shown now, but again, it's committing to 3 different types of units, so there'll be definitely a variety of housing types in that product. And I think there were specific product questions about eaves and stuff, and DRB is here to, Jake Holden. Jay, you want to talk about that? We'll leave it on the side. Thank you.
Thank you.
I went fast, so feel free to ask any questions. I know he does such a good job, I don't have to say much.
Jake Colvin, 4009 Periwinkle Blue Lane. It's about the eaves. Could you tell me what community, our standard is having a 12-inch eave on the in units. Could you tell me which? Hollybrook. That is often confused. There is another builder in the market that has Ryan Homes, that is a totally different company, not related. Long story, there's a family, same name, but different company. So our standard is to have a 12-inch eave on the ends and fronts of a townhome unit. You won't have an eave on, one of our conditions is having that horizontal or vertical offset. Right. You won't have an eave there because there can be conflicts with flashing and drainage and all that sort of thing. But the in units and fronts and backs of it will have a 12-inch eave.
Thank you.
I do have a builder question.
Go ahead.
Real quick, you talk about sort of the diversity in your product. You've got 5 pictured. You're going to maybe boil it down to 3, but there any plan for a primary bedroom downstairs? Because I know you spoke of, age. I don't know that a 20-foot, and that's a killer question, is, does a 20-foot product allow for a downstairs primary?
The three-story units have a room, so especially on a three-story rear-loaded, so you have your two-car garage on the back, and then there's area on the first floor. It wouldn't be a primary in terms of the large size of a primary owner's traditional ensuite, but it would be a bedroom with an ensuite bathroom as an option. People sometimes use it as an office, as another bedroom that has a separated bathroom, but there are some options in the three-story products for a first-floor bedroom.
Yeah. And
with
I've
bath.
seen that, but not a primary. And I'll just say this, not to you guys, but to whoever may be listening, that is something that is needed. A lot of stairs in those 3 stories. I get there's a bedroom downstairs, but conversation for another time, but just wanted to say that out loud. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
An additional one, if you can go back to the sort of full site map in your slides. And this just drew my eye to it a little bit and highlighted something I hadn't thought about a whole lot before. But can you just help me imagine the cross-section of the road improvements? Specifically, what I'm thinking about is the sort of the gap on y'all's Wendell Falls Parkway frontage. What's that feel like in the short term? I know everything, any transportation improvement conversation is a long-term plan, but can you talk about that piece a little bit?
I may have Chase come up here and give me some input on that, but a lot of that is at the whim of NCDOT and the property owner. A lot of times we'll have to taper to make that connection. It really depends on the final design, and I would say it's too early for me to give that answer. Do you have a better answer than that? All right, well, I'll take a point for that one then. I wish I could give you an answer. That's actually something that I can tell you that the project attempted to include that piece of property. They didn't want to be, and we, working in a privacy fence for them, but it's just, it kind of is what it is.
Gotcha. One final piece on that, just when we talk about the right-of-way acquisition and all that kind of thing, and I know this is conceptual, but just looking at the northern apartment building there closest to Wendell Falls Parkway, there's not a scenario where that would end up, that building itself would end up prohibiting a future expansion or improvement to sort of even out that section of the road, assuming that there's some little, the full right-of-way will be...
We will, all the right-of-way dedication required will be done with this, will be completed. Whenever that property gets redeveloped, they would have to do some right-of-way dedication.
Sure.
So there is kind of a odd extra bit of right-of-way in that location is really all that is. There's actually extra right-of-way there that already exists.
Thank you.
I have a couple more.
Okay, go ahead.
And this is speaking to the streetscape. I don't know if I've heard this right, but apparently there's going to be a privacy fence where the townhomes are.
No, not on the streetscape. So that is, can I point with this thing, Brian?
Because those are rear load, correct?
Yeah, so in this area, these are rear loaded, and this is an alley here. Can you see my pointer?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah. And then there's a privacy fence just around this lot.
Gotcha.
So basically from that landscape buffer that's provided, a privacy fence just to that residence.
Okay, and then where you had your pointer there are trees showing on this particular picture. The one in our packet does not show that, so we can...
Yeah, so that's a required buffer. So if you're looking at one of the base ones, that might just label it as buffer. And then there's required plantings if you call it a certain type, I can't remember what type buffer that is, but type B buffer or whatever. So this would be just representing the plantings.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Quick question.
Yep.
When you say 20-foot driveways, does that include like any sidewalks, so it'd be like 23 feet total?
No, that's outside the right of way. That's, outside the right, on the private property. And to be clear, the majority of these are actually like more than 20. There was like a couple pinch points where they'd be down at 20, but I think most of these are actually a little bit more than 20.
Just concerned because most full-size vehicles are at least,
Yeah, so,
at
and again,
least 20.
that's exactly why they're 20, so that they don't go into the public right of way. And a lot of these are in alleys, and so then that's also a big thing. We'll make sure trash trucks get through all this stuff.
Yep.
That's the minimum. That's 20 feet.
Any other questions from the board? All right, is there anyone from the community that would like to speak in favor or in opposition of this proposed development? You can come up one at a time. Yeah, I need you to come up to the podium. And give me your name and address, please.
Carol Joyner at 1508 Drift Falls Lane. Martin Pond is right behind my house. So I was just curious about what the blue, on the map up there, what are those blue things? What does that represent?
So those are, stormwater control ponds.
Okay.
Stormwater control measures to control runoff, so it doesn't run into your property.
That'll be what?
They'll detain water to release flow, so. Detention ponds, yes.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Okay, come up to the podium, please. Give me your name and address, please.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Clifford Richardson. I live at 1821 Wendell Falls. I'm the one property that they surround. So if anyone should be concerned, it should be me. I had two concerns, and Brian has addressed those. I wanted a buffer zone around the property and a privacy fence. That has been granted. So I really don't have a concern with what they want to build. That's surprising, I guess, but the only thing that other concern I would have would be the traffic. It looks like the one day I will be pushed out from what I see, which they're going to have to do something sooner or later because the traffic is terrible. But I don't have a problem right now with what they want to build. And I want to thank the planning department because they did assist me this week with some questions. And I'm very thankful for that. It looks like it'll be a nice place when it's built. I hope I can stay there and be the neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? And give us your name and address, please.
Corey Bissett, 7409 Walnut Grove Lane in Zebulon, but I'm here tonight representing Central Baptist Church. I'm the chairman of the Elder Council and president of the board of directors. 20 years ago, our church discerned a calling from God to expand our ministry to our community by providing kingdom education. Our first step included building a new facility that would enable us to provide top-quality Christian full-day preschool to our community. As part of that construction, we made road improvements and installed a municipal water line from the intersection of Martin Pond and Wendell Falls Parkway to our main campus. In August of 2010, we launched our full-day preschool, and over the years, we have served hundreds of children and their families. Today, we have 141 preschoolers enrolled, and this ministry is a vital part of the church's strategy to serve our community. We now believe it is time for us to take the next step of this vision by providing a Christian lower grade school for our community. We will begin this fall with the start of a kindergarten. Each year, we plan to add grades up to 5th grade. In order to continue expanding, we will need municipal sewer for our main campus. Currently, we are utilizing an in-ground sewer system, which has the capacity to handle our current needs and some additional growth. However, our current in-ground system will not be sufficient to handle the number of students we anticipate for a full elementary school. To accommodate future expansion, we will need to add the municipal sewer line, stubbed out on Martin Pond, to be extended to our main campus, which is approximately 2,000 linear feet, along the easements that we purchased 13 years ago. The development of the property next to ours on Wendell Falls Parkway would make this connection to municipal sewer more cost-effective and allow us to serve more families sooner in our community through Christian education. For these reasons, we are in favor of the proposed development and desire for the main trunk line to be installed as soon as possible. Thank you, and we look forward to expanding our ministry in our growing community.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Don't move too fast. I'm Paul White, and I live on the edge of town on Lions Club Road, right at the town limits. Half the time, the other half, I'm a businessman, and I live on Main Street. I wanted to make a few statements about why I thought this would be good for the town. Wendell is going to grow into a city, whether we like it or not. The old me liked our small town. The future me likes the growth. Transportation problems come from growth, but the fix is the money from growth. The intersection on a Pool Road, I still call it Pool Road, in Eagle Rock is an example. It's being improved right now, and I think the help to do it is coming from some of the economic developers that are pulling together to put a turn lane there. This project is working with adjacent developers in Wendell Falls to expand our sewer capacity to pump to Raleigh. This opens up that section of town, which will be good for Wendell. It'll gain us commercial growth, and with the commercial growth, Wendell will have a tax base and be able to work with the developers to fix the roads, which is some of the objections I hear from growth, is transportation. Transportation gets fixed by development and by the money it'll bring y'all in tax base to be able to work with them in places that'll happen. So this project is going to be good for the future of Wendell. I'm also a member of Central Baptist Church, and I'm looking forward to having the Christian school. I think at one point it'll actually be kindergarten through 12th grade. It'll take a while to step it up to that, but I think our church is serving Wendell. We did it with a daycare. We're going to do it with the school system that's going to be put in, and having this project is going to be good for us and good for Wendell. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, are there any more comments from the board? All right, we'll close the public hearing.
Madam Mayor, I move we approve the proposed annexation and rezoning requests and make a motion to adopt the attached ordinance.
All right, we have a motion to approve the proposed annexation and rezoning request and to adopt the associated ordinance. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right.
Really quickly say that I just am glad to see a mixed-use development. I mean, I think more of these we could see, the better, in my mind.
All right. Anyone else? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. All right, item 5C is a public hearing to annex and rezone approximately 100.72 acres from Wake County Residential 40 to Town of Wendell Residential 7 Conditional District to create a single-family residential subdivision at 1528 Marshburn Road, 3105 and 3130 Buck Stage Trail. Mr. Coates.
Yep, good evening again, Mayor and board members. This third public hearing is to hold a hearing to annex A2213 and rezone for Conditional District 2113 of approximately 100 acres, as you mentioned, from Wake County Residential 40 zoning to Town of Wendell to create a single-family residential. Applications have been received for annexation and the rezoning of the 3 parcels to create a 401 lot subdivision. The overall site plan is attached. Impact to town services for that annexation would require services for the town's police, public works, and parks and recreation departments if annexed. Secondary services will be for other town departments like planning. Property is already served by the local fire district. Water and sewer are available with some extensions to this property as services are directly south currently at this time and provided. This is in our service area by the City of Raleigh for the City of Raleigh Utilities. Projects surrounding the Wake County Residential 40 is to the north, and also the PUD 22-02, which was the Ammons property that came before you last fall. To the south is Wake County Residential 40 and a Town of Wendell property that was annexed. To the east is R40 and the PUD 2202, which is Wendell zoning, and to the west is Wake County Residential 40 as well. Here's a site map You can see in the orange color is the Ammons PUD, which was approved last fall. Marshburn Manor is the local project before you this evening that's highlighted in red and hatched. The Wake County zoning R40, you can see around the properties, and this Marshburn Road and NC 97 intersection. The applicant is requesting a residential 7 conditional district. Residential districts are coded for the town's existing predominantly residential, as well as to provide for new primarily residential development in accordance with this pattern. These districts are differentiated by the density and the overall development. Currently, R7 allows a lot width of 24 feet. The applicant's proposing 30. Lot depth would be minimum 100 feet. Lot size, minimum 3,500 square feet. Front setback is 20 feet and 15 feet if there's alleys, so there are alleys involved. All driveways need to be a minimum 20 feet off out of the public right-of-way. Side setbacks a minimum 3. Rear setback for front-loaded is 25 feet and maximum height is 3 stories. Overall site plan shows Collector Road that would run along the northern property, separating it from the parcels to the north, but also leading back to the Ammons site. In the Ammons PUD, they're building their portion of the roadway included in their PUD that was granted. Second access is also off of Marshburn on the southern side of the project. And then interconnectivity between the Ammons and Marshburn Manor, various streets connect and stubs and line up. And so the two projects will have access to each other's neighborhoods and street connectivity as well. The applicant does have zoning conditions. We'll go over those. Condition 1 is anti-monotony. In order to promote a variation, home appearance, no single-family front facade and primary siding color shall be duplicated for 3 lots in a row or directly across the street. For corner lots, this shall apply to the diagonal lots across the intersection. 2, garage doors shall contain windows or carriage-style adornments. 3, the use of vinyl siding materials will be prohibited except for trim elements of the dwelling. Condition 4, all homes shall use roof eaves which extend at least 10 inches from the facade plane. Condition 5, which the builder includes and is part of their package, is 100% of the homes shall be Energy Star certified with the standards, with the following green standards. Zoning condition 6, all lots shall have a sod installed in front yards. Corner lots shall have sod installed in all the yards. Condition 7, all lots shall have a minimum 5-foot deep front covered porch or uncovered landing along the front facade. Covered front porch or uncovered landing shall be allowed to encroach into the front setback no more than 3 feet. Condition 8, all lots shall have a rear patio or deck of 100 square feet in size, minimum adjacent to a rear-facing exterior wall. The deck shall be allowed to encroach into rear setback no more than 5 feet. The community will have a homeowners association and they'll be responsible for the maintenance of all the open space. Foundation, top of slab shall be elevated a minimum 8 inches above finished grade. Finished grade shall fall a minimum of 6 inches within the first 10 feet away from the structure to ensure positive drainage. All foundations shall be treated with masonry on the front and street-facing sides for a minimum of 10 inches. Condition 11, existing trees to be used to maximum extent possible to satisfy buffer requirements. Buffers will be supplemented with trees to satisfy UDO buffer requirements. Shrub layers will be planted. Condition 12, existing vegetation shall satisfy street yard buffer requirements along Marshburn Road where existing vegetation is to remain undisturbed. Single-family homes, which is all they're proposing, shall have 2-car garages. The development shall have the following amenities: playground, clubhouse, pool, outdoor gym, bike repair area, and shall be maintained by the HOA. Condition 15, amenity center and playground to begin construction prior to recording of final plats for phase 2. 16, maximum block length shall exceed the 800 feet on street C and street R. Condition 17, Street I, the typical section for a major collector, will provide a 79-foot right-of-way, 9-foot median island with 1 11-foot travel lane, 1 5-foot bike lane, and 1 5-foot sidewalk on each side of the center line. 30-inch rolled curb and gutter will be provided along the median island and on the outside of the bike lanes. Street R shall provide a 10-foot multi-use purpose path along the southern right-of-way in lieu of the sidewalk. Condition 19, enhanced streetscape will be provided along the southern right-of-way for Street R for its entirety along the subject parcel. The enhanced streetscape shall consist of a canopy tree per every 20 feet and one shrub every 5. Typically, we require one canopy tree every 40 feet. Condition 20, a 6-foot sidewalk shall be provided along the north side of Street B from the subdivision entrance to the easternmost project limits. Town standard is a 5-foot sidewalk. Because this corridor runs the entire length of the subdivision, a little bit wider of a sidewalk is beneficial as we expect pedestrians to use that east-west connection. Condition 21, mid-block pedestrian crossing between Street B and Street A in Phase 1 and 2 shall be provided with a 10-foot multi-purpose trail. This breaks up the blocks but also provides a nice east-west connection. Trail will be placed in open space to be maintained by HOA. Open space shall be a minimum width of 12 feet or greater. A minimum of 12 feet of frontage at all right-of-way crossings shall be maintained. High visibility crosswalks shall be provided where trail crosses streets. Low-level lighting shall be provided along the 10-foot multi-purpose trail. The low-level lighting was added after the planning board requested that addition. Condition 22, single-family rear-loaded alley lots shall provide a minimum frontage of 30 feet and a minimum square footage of 3,500. Single-family front-loaded lots provide a minimum frontage of 40 and 50 foot and have a minimum square footage of 4,500 and 5,000 square feet respectively. It's a max of 425 lots. Current plans show 401. Zoning condition 24, a public art piece and an improved open space shall be provided prior to receiving building permits for any lots in Phase 7. The public art piece shall be accessible to the public via access easement and shall be reviewed and approved by the Town Committee for Public Art Approvals. Zoning condition 25, a public stormwater management access easement shall be provided from the stormwater management pond number 1 to the future commercial parcel adjacent to the proposed development to the west. And condition 26, a signal warrant analysis will be conducted prior to the platting of the 300th lot. And we'll go over some of these conditions as it relates to the TIA as well in a few slides. Public utilities, development of the site will require connection to city water and sewer. The plans contain an off-site sewer extension south along Marshburn Road that connects with the existing sewer located near the intersection of Hanner Lane. Existing water lines are nearby along Marshburn Road and NC 97. Environmental, the applicant will need to obtain stormwater sedimentation erosion control permits before any site work can commence. The proposed plan shows the development creating 5 stormwater control measures to be used for stormwater management. Although this is a single-family subdivision, the use does require a 20-foot type B buffer in some areas since the use is more intense than the land around it. A 20-foot type B buffer is shown on the plans along Marshburn Road as well as the single-family properties that face Marshburn Road. A 20-foot type C buffer is shown along the southern and eastern boundaries where the Ammons PUD is proposed. The density between the two projects are roughly the same as 4 units an acre. An enhanced streetscape buffer is proposed along Street R per zoning condition 19. Open space, the development plan requires roughly 11 acres of open space. The applicant's proposing 28. 4.2 of those are improved, of which 1.35 acres is considered active. Active includes playgrounds, pool, outdoor gym per zoning condition 14. Streams and wetlands, the current development plan does show the locations of wetlands, and they're not proposing any lots or development in those wetlands. Transportation, UDO did require a traffic impact analysis for the development. The TIA calls for 2 site driveways onto Marshburn Road. Both driveway A, the collector road, and driveway B will be full access out of the development. On southbound Marshburn, a left turn lane will be required prior to the final plat of the 100th lot. Northbound turn lanes will be constructed at both driveways as well. A 450-foot right turn lane on westbound 97 to northbound Marshburn will be required prior to the final plat for the 200th lot. We do have some maps coming up right after this slide to show you those improvements. A northbound left turn lane onto US 64 westbound, otherwise known as I-87, will be required prior to the plat of the 200th lot. The development will be required to do a signal warrant analysis for a traffic signal at Lizard Lick Road and the ramps to US 64 I-87 before the platting of the 200th lot. Zoning condition 26 requires the developer to conduct an additional signal warrant analysis prior to the platting of the 300th lot, and that was recommended by staff and the planning board. Here's the recommendations. The improvements on 97 and the turn lanes on Marshburn onto I-87. Some of those same improvements were in the Ammons PUD. The two developers are working together to complete those projects and work together as they both have been identified in their projects. Traditionally, whichever development kicks the requirement in first would be responsible, but at this time, both Meritage and Brookfield are working together on those improvements. The arterial and street collector map does identify Marshburn as a future 4-lane median roadway with a 110-foot right-of-way. The applicant's proposing to dedicate the additional right-of-way along their Marshburn Road frontage. I think there were questions about if 25 feet would be taken on the other side. Only if those properties were developed would the town require the right-of-way. They're only required to dedicate right-of-way along their frontage. The development is incorporating local streets with our requirements into their design. 5 stubs to adjacent properties are also shown. Quite a few of those stubs line up with the Ammons PUD street layout as well. Current phasing, there's 7 phases for the project, and they are tied to phase 1 can be recorded. Before phase 2 is recorded, they have to start construction on the amenity center and playground, and then before phase 7 can be platted, the public art, there has to be building permits for that public art as well. The road improvements are tied to the lot counts. As they plat number of lots, the requirements have to be completed. Blueprint Wendell 2030 classifies the majority of the site as medium residential 1. There is a portion of it that is classified as Innovation District. The largest portion of the lot coded as Innovation District has been reserved for future commercial. However, there is some of that parcel that is classified as residential within their plan. They did submit, both the last project and this project were submitted before the comp plan was adopted. Both of these projects were submitted in 2021. And we worked with them both as we had drafts of the plan, but the comp plan wasn't adopted till last April. So they are dedicating roughly a little over 8 acres for future commercial use. The proposed project does meet the characteristics outlined in medium residential 1 for the density, uses, street pattern, connectivity, and open space. They are proposing single-family detached homes. Mix of housing types, different lot sizes, some are alley loaded, some are front loaded, improved open spaces in the form of pocket parks, neighborhood parks, trail system, and in just wider sidewalks in places and things like that. Greenway trails and streets do line up with Ammons in the potential greenways that will be built in that project. So residents, if this project is approved, residents in this area will have access to significant miles and miles of sidewalks and greenways and multi-use paths for quality of life. The portion that's in the Innovation District, roughly 8.14 acres. Innovation could be neighborhood retail, could be restaurants, could be some light industrial, flex tech, office, retail, live-work type units, but in this case, they're dedicating that as future commercial at this time. Any recommended changes should be accompanied by a statement explaining how the change is or is not consistent with the comp plan. The density for medium residential living 1 is 2 to 4 units. They are at the 4-unit density, which is similar to the Ammons development. The proposal does have a density, as I said, 3.98. Lot sizes do meet the intent for new development for both small lot and medium lot single family. It is highly connected internally and externally to adjacent development. It does incorporate some trails and wider sidewalks throughout their project. While part of the one parcel is innovation that's showing residential in their plan, so it's partially inconsistent, but can be considered reasonable as it assists with the art and cultural of the comp plan, neighborhoods and housing, and green space and greenways. At the October 17th, 2022 Planning Board meeting, they voted 6-0 on the motion to recommend approval. They did recommend revising condition 21 to add low-level lighting, which the applicant did. They added conditions 25 and 26 as recommended by the Planning Board and planning staff. TRC did complete the review of this project. They did hold a neighborhood meeting virtually that was on March 29th, 2022 with 8 people in attendance. Staff is recommending approval as considered consistent and reasonable with the comp plan. I can field any questions that you have. The applicant is here and does have a PowerPoint as well.
Okay. We'll open the public hearing. Any questions from the board?
Quick one.
Yep.
Brian, can you just talk a little bit about Street R is the one that I paid the most attention to, but maybe all the stubs and just how they align with Ammons Acres and what's already been approved there?
Yep, give me 1 second just to... So the main collector that you see, which is Street R, is in the transportation plan and does show an east-west traversing the site and through the Ammons site. And is, I can go back to it. Yeah, give me 1 second. Street R, which is here, they're building the portion that's required by our transportation plan in their property. And then as part of the Ammons PUD, that same road was shown on their plan. Multi-use path along the southern side. Street trees serves as the collector for both developments, and what will be ever developed north of this site could connect into it as well. The other streets, this street, and I can't read it on here, Street B has a wider sidewalk from Marshburn Road all the way over to the east, which will line up with the Ammons project as well. That was a staff recommendation that the applicant added, as we felt as an east-west corridor that goes through some amenities and connects different sections of the community. Having a wider sidewalk is beneficial. We have some of that on streets in Wendell Falls that traverse different sections. And then Street I, which is shown in our transportation plan without a median, and both projects have to build at the Ammons and Marshburn Manor. Staff's preference is to have that median to break up and have better pedestrian crossings where it intersects. 3 lanes of pavement with no median break or no landscaping break isn't great for pedestrians. It's not great for a neighborhood. And so you still get the same traffic flow, and still at the intersections could have turn lanes if needed and things like that, but it just provides a better pedestrian connectivity in areas for pedestrian refuge as well. So it just breaks it up, more pedestrian friendly, and everything along that street is alley loaded so that there's not driveways along it, so it does function like a collector road. And then the mid-cross path that you see is in this area, and this was added during the review process. It just provides, so if you live in this section, you don't have to go all the way around to the amenity. You have a mid-block crossing. That's a greenway path that's maintained by their HOA.
And then that final, the street, I can't see, the K at the bottom, the western stub, I know is not something we've talked about in the past, but the eastern stub into the Ammons property, does that align with something else too?
So the Ammons PUD, we don't have the full local streets, it's
Right.
just the major roads. Whichever plan comes in first, we're gonna want them connected as much as we can. And so I can't say that it lines up with the Ammons because we don't have details on the local streets like we do with a conditional district. PUDs, we just have to get the main roads. And the main roads line up, but these other roads, this is Ammons site here.
Right.
And then if this property, which is owned by Joshua Furr, if that were to develop, there is a stub there as well. And then they do have access back out to Marshburn as well.
So I guess my final question there would be, do y'all have the tools as staff, as the adjacent PUD to the east develops and moves forward to require a connection right there and make that work?
Mhm.
You don't, okay, that's what I'm getting at. And then lastly, I know you mentioned, I think one of the conditions says that Street C exceeds the 800-foot length. Which one is, I couldn't find it on the map.
Streets. Hold on. Is it?
It's hard
Hold
to
on.
see.
Yeah, I'm looking. Give me 1 second. We'll be 47 next month. It's not getting fun, y'all. Street B.
I can see Dr. Booth.
Is it? Okay. So Street C down here.
That one, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy.
To both of you.
Anything else from the board?
I have another question. Brian, just speaking to that commercial property, I know it's just kind of sitting there. Is that a floodplain running through that, or what is that on the map that I'm looking at that bisects it?
So I'm going to let the applicant answer that, because it is not, looks like maybe some wetlands, but there's no blue line stream
Okay,
in our data layer, but I can let the applicant answer
that's
that.
perfectly fine.
Thank you, Mr. Coates. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the commission. Scott Roy Lance, representing Meritage Homes. I do believe in answer that that's a jurisdictional wetland. So wetlands, just have to try to plan around them and do the best we can.
Did you have any comments you wanted to make or presentation?
I would love to. Just want to make sure I was answering questions first.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, I just didn't know what that meant on the map, so.
Perfect. And I'm not sure, is the PowerPoint loaded up here?
Yep, give me 1
Awesome.
second.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll be very brief. Really appreciate staff, appreciate the work that we've done with them. Really feel like we've designed and created a really great neighborhood for our future residents that promotes a lot of walkability, a lot of connectivity, and so really excited to be part of the fabric of Wendell. We fully accept the staff conditions and the conditions as outlined, so really excited to move forward. So again, Meritage Homes, 7th largest builder in the nation. Again, I think a highlight for Meritage Homes is we really emphasize energy efficiency, and excited to bring that to Wendell. Again, just thought we'd highlight, we actually have a couple projects that are under development in Wendell, so this would further our presence. We're just getting ready to open a new community called Edgewater over on the east side of town. Just received plat a couple months ago and just are pulling our first building permits. And then under development for a site that we call the Glennon Place, just closer to the Sheets over on the west side of town. So again, this will be a continuation of our presence here in Wendell. Again, another copy of the site plan. We really like the variety of product that we're proposing, both alley and then 40-foot lots and 50-foot lots. I think that provides a lot of options for our future customers. So really appreciate staff working with us on that. So again, a site plan, the best that we know it for our site plan compared to what we understand from Brookfield. As staff mentioned, we certainly know the folks at Brookfield are working with them and are comfortable working with them in the future for the enactment of both subdivisions. You can see the connectivity to both the major roads. And again, I know they're working on some of their site plans, but think we've really tried to nail as much connectivity as possible at this level for us and them. And then again, thought we'd just highlight the off-site traffic improvements. Certainly, there's traffic improvements all along Marshburn as it transitions up into Lizard Lick. That'll be a benefit not only to this project, but also the residents of the community. Again, just highlighting a couple of them adjacent to our property site. And then certainly up at the intersection of Lizard Lick and what's this, Glen? NC 97. So some of the right turn lanes that we're proposing to do as part of the project. And then certainly some of the signing and striping and traffic monitoring signals that we're doing, all to be finalized as we go through construction drawings and work with staff and NCDOT. But thought we'd really just highlight some of the work that we're proposing to do with this project. Again, excited to be here, excited for this project. Happy to answer any questions that you may have from us as the applicant.
All right, are there any questions for the applicant? Yes.
While you're on the slide, is that all just striping? I mean, does the current bridge have the capacity for that left turn lane?
Yeah, in preliminary conversations with DOT, they've said striping is the appropriate, there's the width on the traffic bridge with some additional striping that will really help queuing.
Okay.
Again, not a traffic engineer, but that's what the conversations with NCDOT have directed us towards.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Any questions for town staff real quick? Okay. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak in favor of or opposition of the project before us tonight? Yes, ma'am. Come up here to the podium and give me your name and address.
Hello, my friends. My name is Maria Shevchenko. I live on 1612 Marshburn Road. And I just want you to the right, okay? Quickly. Just for fun a little bit. Okay. Because we're building up business. Kind of very unique business. I'm going to explain in a couple seconds, okay? Anyway, we're very excited about the whole thing because we love people and we love animals. And our main idea to build up a cat cafe. If you ever heard about this, this is some kind of a Japanese thing and not so many around United States. I mean, there are some, but it's just for rescued cats and they very kind of like completely different way. So, we are opening like in a couple weeks. And it seems everything is perfectly fine, except I'm trying to figure it out how my customers is going to enter to our property. Our goal right now, we're going to open right from our house, our own house. When a business will raise up, we're going to build up next building. This is going to be kind of like a restaurant or something, and the whole house will give up everything for cats, for our visitors to come to play with our absolutely gorgeous, beautiful, very sweet, very affectionate kittens. And, well, you know how it's important in our days especially. And that's why I'm so excited about such a great community growing up here, because people will have great entertainment at our place. Plus, we have some very unique recipes which we're going to offer people and stuff like that. So, and we're already international known with very successful cattery. And I'm an educated breeder. I'm not just a habitist or anything like that. I do it professionally, okay? So it seems like everything's fine, except we've been talking already with Wendell department people, and they said like there are going to be trees kind of on our side and stuff like that. But just because we have so many animals and dog, and we have 5 kids, I would probably ask if we can have a fence, because it goes like, how can I show that? Can I show that?
Yep, give me one second.
Where is it? Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
That's right here.
So her property is right here?
Yes.
At the
Yeah,
intersection?
only that side, to fence that side, because, well, how many construction trucks will coming back and forward that road? I don't know. And plus, how my customers will be entering to my property as well. You know what I mean? So that is my concern. And also, I would like to know, what is it? I'm sorry.
Hello, my name is Wendell.
That's my husband. He's a construction guy.
We need to go one at a time. So are you finished?
Okay, yes, I finished. I'll let you
Okay,
go.
okay. Now, you tip me your name and address, please.
My name is Ruslan Shevchenko, 1612 Marshburn Road. The point is, we do have, where is it? Sorry, sleeping?
So, let me go back, there you go. So here's your property right
Yes.
here.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. So I have to press something, right?
Nope, you just have to move this mouse.
Okay,
just like
yeah.
this. Yep.
So, right now we have Sharon Road right there, but that road starts a little bit on the right, then go through our property. So now, we will not have the entrance. Plus, as I understand correctly, to get into this road, so you have to step in. I really do not understand how this situation gonna be solved to be like reasonable, correct, so like everybody, we can go in and this is works, because right now it's confusing, so this situation is really confusing. This is only what I wanna say.
Okay. We'll
Thank you.
see if we can get you some answers. All right, Mr. Coates, can you talk about that?
Yeah, so currently, there is a road, like a dirt road, that starts on this Marshburn Manor site,
Right.
goes through a portion of their property and comes back here for the property owners here to have access to Marshburn Road. And I can let the applicant address, I know they've been having conversations with the residents here about giving them access to the new road, but their driveway starts on another person's on the applicant's property.
Okay, so they've been using a driveway not on their property.
Correct. And I can let the applicants had conversations with them about
Let's hear from the
road
applicant.
access and driveway access.
Absolutely. Scott Roy, Lance again. Yeah, I mean, I think in a situation like this, we always commit to making sure that ingress and egress is provided along the new road. Obviously, that's a construction level drawing detail that we'll need to work through with staff and, with our neighboring property owner, and are committing to do that. I think that's a kind of a part and parcel when you're developing in areas like this, just having to work with adjacent property owners.
Can you throw in the fence?
Yeah, I think honestly, this is the first I've heard of the fence idea, so I think we'd want to work with staff. I think the vision of the road might be one thing, so I'm not sure what staff's thought on.
Yeah, so our thought would be to add that the Shevchenko property have access to the new collector road through a zoning condition, and that the fence with landscaping could be appropriate. It is a side yard, even though so currently their house faces Marshburn Road, so the front of the home is Marshburn, the driveway will be on the side, which we would allow like a 6-foot fence, a privacy fence on the side. So we could work out a fence detail when the exact location of that driveway access is worked out, but the street detail could include the landscaping requirements with a fence on their property, not within the right-of-way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have one more follow-up question on
Yeah.
that point. And Brian, I recognizing that we're not DOT, and I think that all what you just lined out sounds like ideal solution. If not, I mean, this property has road frontage on Marshburn Road. Can they get a driveway on Marshburn Road if they wanted to?
Yeah, they'd have to apply for an encroachment to get that driveway access with NCDOT, but most likely, the property's, I think, over an acre, so it has plenty of frontage, I would think.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and if I could, I mean, just looking, again, not being a traffic engineer, but knowing their site triangle distances, I'd hate to commit to something that actually can't be done. I think certainly the ingress and egress onto the road is certainly, will be accomplished. The fence, there's just probably more technicalities associated with that than I would certainly feel comfortable committing to.
Okay. Okay, yes, go ahead.
One additional thing, so the driveway on that collector would need to most likely be 100-foot minimum from the intersection, as that's a DOT their normal requirement, that they don't want to, where cars are turning onto that new collector, they don't want a driveway immediate. I think the minimum's usually 100-foot distance back from the intersection.
So being like in the back of their lot, their
Potentially, yeah, based on what it looks like on the scale, yeah.
Okay.
Explain a little bit, I don't understand.
So Marshburn Road is maintained by NCDOT. At an intersection, they prefer that any driveways on these roads be about 100 feet back from the intersection so that there's not people turning into the neighborhood and then also turning into your driveway. So traditionally, they look for it to be 100 feet back from that intersection.
You get the driveway and the fence, but it has to be in a legal manner.
Okay.
But they don't know that until they do the construction drawings, so that they'll be able to draw it in a way that DOT, the state, will approve. But yeah, you get the driveway and the fence that you asked.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right. Is there anyone else that would like to speak from the audience tonight? Anyone? Any more comments from the board?
Briefly.
Yeah.
Seems like a good proposal. Growing toward this interchange on I-87 makes a ton of sense to me. Same way when we talked about Hammond recently. I would just say that it's a whole lot of houses with not a lot of commercial. There's a little piece of commercial reserve here. This is not necessarily the group of parcels where commercial is going to make the most sense, but I know we've got the Innovation District and the comprehensive plan. I'll call to developers and property owners in and around that interchange. I think there's going to be a need, and from a planning perspective, I know that I feel like there's a need for some commercial development to complement the residential development that's going to be happening right here at Lizard Lick. So we've always said Lizard Lick's a thriving metropolis, and it's about to be one. So let's open some businesses with Lizard Lick addresses. It sounds like we've got businesses coming online already, so let's add some more.
Anyone else from the board? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. And it may be that we need to add a condition. Okay, we'll make sure I get the language of that right. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, we'll let him keep talking.
Brian, would you hypothetically state a motion approving it and include that condition?
Yeah, so the condition would be to grant this Shevlenko property at 1612 Marshburn would have access to that future collector road. And a fence would be outside of the right-of-way per NCDOT approval.
Okay, I got it, that's good.
Madam Mayor, I move adoption of the proposed annexation and rezoning request to include the condition that Planning Director just stated.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the proposed annexation and rezoning request with the addition of the one more condition. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, anyone opposed? All right, we're approaching kind of 9-ish, and we have a lot in our next item, our next section. So let's take, we'll be back at 8:50. Let's keep a recess. Item 6A is a decision to approve rankings and authorize the town manager to negotiate a contract for an RFQ for design services for the Buffalo Creek Greenway Multi-Use Trail Project. Mr. Pulaski.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. Staff issued RFQ 2023-03 for professional design services for the Buffalo Creek Greenway Multi-Use Trail Project, and requests were due by December the 16th at 3 p.m. The town received 6 responses to the RFQ by the deadline. Staff reviewed the submissions and ranked the responses based on the submittal requirements in the RFQ document. After scoring, after doing our initial score, we narrowed it down to our top 3 choices, and those 3 choices were brought in for an interview, presentation, and question and answering sessions. After that meeting, staff ranked them with number 1 being Surface 678, number 2 being AMT Engineering, and number 3 being Weather Rail Engineering. Upon approval, staff will negotiate design services and return the agreed contract to the board for approval. The fiscal year 2023 budget provides funding from the general fund reserve in the amount of $120,000 for the design of the Buffalo Creek Greenway Multi-Use Trail Project. The budget provides this project to be designed during the fiscal year 2022-23.
All right. Any questions from the board? Comments?
Just comment to say that I really appreciate having the RFQ score sheet included for this one. Thank you.
And that was a cumulative average the whole committees was.
I know there's a lot more work that goes into it than just that, but that's, I like the transparency piece of just being able to see a little bit behind into the process. So
Yes, sir.
Thanks for your time in the process of making it work, but thanks also for the little bit of insight into it.
Anything else?
Madam Mayor, I move we approve the rankings and authorize the town manager to negotiate a contract for the request for qualifications for the design services of the Buffalo Creek Greenway and Multi-Use Trail Project.
All right, we have a motion to approve the rankings and authorize the town manager to negotiate a contract for professional design services for the Buffalo Creek Greenway Multi-Use Trail Project. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6B is a decision to approve rankings and authorize the town manager to negotiate a contract for the request for qualifications for professional environmental consultants to provide brownfield site assessment and related services. Mr. Garner.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. I'll try not to sound too repetitive with Jeff, but essentially all the same words. We issued RFQ 2023-04 for brownfield services. Just as a little bit of context, last May we received a grant of $500,000 from the EPA Brownfields program for a community-wide brownfields assessment grant. The federal funding is dedicated to the assessment of brownfield sites potentially impacted by hazardous substances and will be used to develop a brownfield site inventory and database, conduct Phase 1 and Phase 2 environmental assessments as necessary, prepare related work documents, plan for potential site response, cleanup, and ultimately redevelopment actions and opportunities, specifically in and around downtown Wendell. We issued the RFQ and we're set to receive responses by 3 p.m. on December 2nd. We received 13 total statements of qualification, and we reviewed the submissions and ranked the responses based on the submittal requirements found in the RFQ document. We then invited the top 4 scoring firms to interview in person, and following both processes, ranked the submissions in the following order, with Geosyntec Consultants coming in first, SNME Inc. coming in second, and then there was a tie for third with Mid-Atlantic Associates and TRC Companies. If approved, staff will negotiate professional, environmental, and grant administration services and return the agreed-upon contract to the board for approval. I'm very excited about the program. I'm very excited about the grant, as I'm sure you are, and Miss Vicki Garlington, who would serve as the project geologist and our point of contact, is here if you have any questions about brownfields or Geosyntec Consultants.
Okay, thank you. Anything from the board? Any questions for the consultant as well? Anybody? All right.
Madam Mayor, I move we accept the rankings and authorize the town manager to negotiate a contract for professional environmental consultants to provide grant administration and brownfield services for the town.
All right, we have a motion to accept the rankings for the RFQ and authorize the town manager to negotiate a contract for professional environmental, consultants for the brownfield services for the town. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Item 6C is a review and approval of a mural at Starbucks located at 6008 Taylor Road.
Yep. Good evening, Mayor and board members. This next item is for you to review and approve or deny the application by Starbucks for a mural at 6008 Taylor Road. Their building is currently under construction. The proposed mural would be located along Wendell Falls Parkway near the intersection with Taylor. The mural consists of flowers, greenery, and cardinals, and a message stating the world is better with you in it. The applicant's proposing the mural to be roughly 609 square feet along an existing brick wall along the drive-through lane. The dimensions of the mural are 21 feet by 29, located in the rear of the building that faces Wendell Falls Parkway. Planning staff does recommend approval of the mural as it complies with the UDO section 12.8Q. The applicant has also applied for a sign permit for the logo that you see on this wall and other signs that will be on the building. Appearance Commission made a unanimous recommendation of approval at its February 6th meeting. And I have some images here of the current building that's under construction with the mural and potential signs on the other walls as well. And UDO Chapter 12.8Q does have 5 different requirements related to murals, and the applicant meets those requirements. I can answer any questions that you have. The applicant is not here this evening. They could not travel here.
Any questions from the board?
I had hoped to ask the applicant this. I really like the look of it. I like the phrase of it. I had a suggestion for them that they change the world to Wendell in their phrase. That said, there's no one here for me to suggest that to. So knowing that not all good ideas get implemented, Madam Mayor, I have a motion to approve the mural request as presented.
All right, we have a motion to approve the mural request. I like changing it to Wendell, so. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Item 6D is a request from Capital Area Preservation to the town of Wendell to loan them funds to secure the Anderson Hood property located at Old Battle Bridge Road and prepare the property for sale to a historic preservation buyer. Mr. Collins.
In discussions with the board, purchasing property at this time was a, did I get the wrong one? Oh, went right past it, didn't I? There we go. Sorry, I'm from North Carolina. I speak a little slower and read even slower, so excuse my handicap. The request tonight is Capital Area Preservation has partnered with other municipalities in Wake County in situations where they purchase a property. They look to seek a capital loan to fund securing the property, in some cases moving structures on the property. There's no moving of structures in this case. It's just securing the property and then preparing the property for market for sale for a historic buyer. They estimate that cost for this site, being a larger property, to be approximately $100,000, and it's requested the town of Wendell to enter into a loan agreement for that amount. If the Capital Area Preservation fails to sell the property within the agreement time period, they either pay back the money or they can request an extension and pay a 4% increase during that extension period. If the property does sell, the town is reimbursed the money it puts in. It allows the nonprofit to maintain cash within their reserves so that they can use for their purpose of acquiring other properties and move forward. For us, it allows us as a town to participate in historic preservation of key property in the history of Wendell in that area. And allows to ensure that it's secured up front, which I know was in talking with some of the board members, was a concern about making sure it gets secured and that it is marketed and sold for historic property. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and Gary from Capital Area Preservation is here hiding in the audience, but can be called up if needed if y'all get too technical.
All right, are there any questions from the board?
Yeah. I know we've got the sample from Carrie in our packet, and you alluded to a couple of terms that I think are what are in that example. So just beyond, I think what we've got laid out as the specific action is sort of open-ended. Is it your intention and your understanding of what's sort of being asked tonight that there's a maximum of $100,000 for a 2-year term with the 1-year extension at a 4%, 0% for the first 2 years, 4% if we go into the third, just like Carrie? Or are you okay with being sort of us binding you within those parameters, or do you need more flexibility? Do you want to figure out those parameters and come back to us with those once they're worked out? Or what I'm getting at is I'm not super comfortable with just the total open end. Yeah, figure it out. But if we're talking about those kind of those three ideas, I guess those basic concepts.
My understanding is that if I am authorized tonight, that it would be consistent with the Carrie agreement. Anything else I would bring back to the board for approval.
Okay.
Anything else from the board?
The extension is in the Carrie when it's granted upon request, so it comes back to this board for the extension, right? If we get 2 years down the road, no one sold it.
That was part of the original package.
It could come back to this board if you ask me to put that in the agreement and they agree to it. At that point, in my mind, the public's interest is protected with the interest, and they're either returning the funds or paying a higher amount.
When you're agreeing in the agreement to allow that extra year, so I don't know that it needs to come back.
It would be typical with a lot of the agreements that we enter into to have some form of automatic extension upon request. A 3-year window is not a long period of time.
I just was trying to figure out when the stop is, like when it comes back or when. So if it's 3 years, I'm fine with 3 years.
Yep. 3 years, right?
A 1-year extension, and then after that, they'd have to return to the board.
Right.
Hopefully it's sold to the Hennett family in just a couple months.
And looking beautiful.
I hate to put him on the spot, but I also hate to pass up an opportunity to talk a little bit about CAP's work and then this project specifically. And if, Gary, if you just want to tell us a little bit about what you do and also about this project specifically. I mean, you don't have to if you don't want to. I know you don't know that you have a presentation, but if you'd like the floor for a second, let me hear from you.
You came all this way to Wendell, you might as well.
Just say something.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for the opportunity. With me is Jeremy Bradham, who is our preservation specialist. I'm going to ask him in a second to kind of review some of the things, the expenditures we intend to make, that we feel that we need to make in this particular property. Let me just outline for you a little bit how we see things developing. So we would make, our concern right at the moment is securing the property, protecting the house. There has been vandalism. All the windows in the house are broken. So that's a starting point for us. And doing some stabilization of the house. It's at that point then we would attempt to put it up for sale. And when we put it up for sale, the important thing about that is we do that with a preservation easement. And that easement runs in perpetuity. In other words, that would oblige any owner, that initial owner and any successive owner, to maintain this house and maintain the integrity of this house. That doesn't mean they can't make changes, they can't make adjustments, they can't even potentially could make additions to the property, but they must maintain the essential integrity of the house, which makes it so significant. I mean, we think it's probably particularly when it's restored, it'll be the premier antebellum property in all of eastern Wake County, not just Wendell. So it's extremely significant. But that preservation easement, that goes through all time, and so that makes it unique. We're not just saying, oh, you look like, you'd be a good preservation buyer. No, we're asking for a commitment signed, basically, part of the deed. Now, to the initial owner, so I say, we're going to do stabilization, we're going to do the protective work. The initial owner would also sign a rehabilitation agreement to take this property all the way through. And we're certainly willing to negotiate with them in terms of time and so forth, but it would be their responsibility to move this property forward, to get to final completion. That's not our intention at this point. So, but Jeremy's been doing some work on the budget, and we can just quickly go over some of the needs and what the costs are, and I think we're already over the $100,000, so.
Yeah, if I just mentioned windows, as we mentioned, the windows are in rough shape. Most of these projects we've dealt with in other towns, we've had to replace 2 or 3 windows. We're talking about 26 windows needing replacement in this one. Bricks were thrown, and the mullions and the sashes were pretty much destroyed, but we do have a few originals. And we've already reached out. It's obviously, everything's more expensive these days, but to get the cost on that, we're looking at almost $120,000 just for windows, believe it or not. But our main goal is to get the windows in working order. That's part of the stabilization, to secure it, and to clean up the house really and make it so it's a pure house where someone can come in and put their bathrooms, their kitchens in under the terms of that preservation easement. But right now our initial budgets, we're already at $140,000. So that's why we thought about the $100,000 roughly in terms of what we've done before, but also for window stabilization and things like that.
Any other questions or?
Who are the usual buyers in these kind of projects? And this is the new thing for me, I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, it really varies. I mean, it could be someone who wants to live in the home. It could be someone who's got a business purpose in mind. You know, besides the home, there's also a store that dates to about 1850. And that store, as Ray mentioned, was also the post office for Wendell for many, many years, maybe to 1960 or so. So, but that building offers some opportunities. You know, you could see potentially a farmer's market there or something like that. So it varies. I mean, we have people who purchase these properties to live in. We have others who bought them for wedding venues. They set up a wedding venue. That's very, very possible here too. I mean, it will be a beautiful house, but there's also almost 9 acres. Not quite, but almost 9 acres. So I think the opportunities for doing something like that would be very real. We've done that. I'm trying to think, Jeremy can think of some other examples besides the...
Office space.
I mean, office space is a big one, that people will buy a property like this for office space. Okay. The room arrangement in this house is such that it would really lend itself very much to that. So, and just going back to the manager's point earlier, and that is that, so when we sell this, you know, I kind of told you we'll put the easement on there, so that's going to protect the house. But when we sell this, we put these funds into doing similar projects and other projects like that. So we're still working on one in Fuquay right now. We've done some in Apex and Cary, as you know. So, and that's where we would reinvest the funds in the project.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
Quick comment.
Yep.
One, just Gary, your whole team, thank y'all for being here, for paying attention to Wendell, Eastern Wake County. We are proud of our history out here, as you all know, and I think there are a lot of additional opportunities beyond this one in the future and ways for us to work together. So look forward to those opportunities and your help in identifying them. And furthermore, I think I would just take a second to say that this project and this proposal is very much in line with another thing I talk about a lot, which is the conservation easement and land protection from a voluntary market-based perspective. All of this is the voluntary, financially responsible, market-based approach to protecting land, protecting historic properties, not by wielding the heavy hand of government from a regulatory perspective, but by using the carrots that we all have, that we can offer through financial incentives, loan arrangements like this, partnering with private investors to make sure that our community, as we grow, continues to have these resources that make us special, but have them in a way that they can be public benefits beyond just a reminder of our history, a part of our future as well, as in some sort of reuse in whatever purpose that may be. So I'm excited about this proposal. I'm glad we're going to have opportunity to be part of this project, and like I said, look forward to other opportunities of this type in the future.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. I've been pulling for this property for a long time, and hoping that something like this could happen for it, so we could take care of it. I think it's important. So, anyone else?
Madam Mayor, I move we authorize the town manager to sign the agreement between the town of Wendell and the Capital Area Preservation for securing and preparation of sale of the Anderson Hood historic property on Old Battle Bridge Road.
All right, thank you. We have a motion to authorize the town manager to sign an agreement between the town of Wendell and Capital Area Preservation to secure and prepare for the sale of the Anderson Hood historic property on Old Battle Bridge Road. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
And no one opposed. Great. Very exciting. All right, item 6E is a discussion on the projected costs of the 2023 municipal election and decision on funding an early voting site in Wendell. Mr. Collins.
Thank you. Before we move on, another answer to that question, Dr. Lutz, is eye doctors who've recently rehabilitated and renovated other downtown historic district buildings might be eligible purchasers also.
My wife is not listening to this.
We'll send Janelle a note. So the diversity of topics tonight, and this one kind of goes in another direction. Wake County Board of Elections is seeking to formalize their budget requests in advance of the coming fiscal year, which includes a municipal election. Cost estimates for just the general election are nearly double what we've seen in the past due to their costs increasing. So what they've estimated at this time for Wendell to participate in the 2023 municipal election is a low estimate of $59,300 approximately, and a high estimate of $68,805. There's a range here, and it deals with the two larger cities, Raleigh and Cary, having primaries. If they need a runoff election after their primaries, those additional election contributions actually drop the price. And so if both of them have a runoff election, it gets closer to that lower cost. If one of them, it's kind of midpoint. If neither of them need a runoff election, we get the high number. Historically, I've budgeted for the high number, and I'm happily pleased if we can affect a savings there. Part of the regular cost includes an early voting site at the Board of Elections offices. Many of the municipalities only avail themselves of early voting for municipal elections at the Wake County Board of Elections. And you'll see on the next slide why, due to the cost relative to the low number of voters that turn out for a municipal only. But I know that early voting sites is important to this board, and so I wanted to give you all the opportunity to discuss and then give me direction where to go on this. All right. So for Wendell to have its own extra early voting site within the town of Wendell, much like at the community center for the national and state elections this past fall, it would cost an additional $70,100 minimum, up to $114,700 on the high end. That's not total cost, that's that plus the prior slide, for a relatively low number of votes. And so, if y'all need to discuss that at all, or if you can provide me some direction as to the response to Wake County, either to just participate in the standard level of service with voting in our precincts on election day, but allowing residents during early voting to go to Wake County Board of Elections or do absentee balloting, or B, the additional cost and add an early voting site. Happy to answer any questions I can. Probably the easiest layout's the attachment with all of that on one.
Mr. Manager, it has a low estimate and a high estimate. Should there be a third line with, am I understanding you correctly, said there should be a third line with total, where we add the two numbers together?
Yeah, so for instance, a low with both would be the 59 plus 70, so you're at 129 as a low if you do the early voting site in Wendell, and 114 and 68, so you're at 182, plus or minus on the high end of having both, versus if we just do the standard, I would be budgeting 68.8
For everything?
for everything. And it may come in lower than that, as low as 59.
Does the county contribute any funds to support the municipal elections? Like, I mean, I understand that this is what it would cost us, all these numbers, but is there some other base cost of running the election that the county supports, or do they not contribute at all?
I'm happy to follow up on that.
Okay.
My understanding is there's a specific state law, and they follow that.
And then, was there any discussion about options related to the amount of early voting that would be provided?
No, that's also set by state law by the largest jurisdiction. I believe.
There is some flexibility for the counties, so I'm just curious if I don't know enough about their ability to offer multiple options, but they do have some flexibility.
It's been offered in the past, and it requires certain jurisdictions to agree to it, and they have not in the past.
For continuity across the, is that what you?
But we can't have one thing and someone else have something else.
Right.
There's a specific requirement, and the county follows that. I'm glad to send you that.
So this would be for the maximum amount of early voting? That's the same thing so the county office, the headquarters, the state board, the county board office has to offer the maximum amount.
Right.
And then they have the flexibility to allow other early vote sites around the county to have shorter number of days. Is this the number that represents the full amount of time that the county board would operate, or something less?
I'll have to get you the specific process. I know that we inquired last time this came up, and we did not have flexibility in that timing.
Yeah, I know we certainly don't get to set it, but the county does have flexibility.
Right, and there's a particular process with particular parties that drive that, and it's not Wendell.
Respectfully disagree and would say that we are certainly one of those parties, but thank you, that's helpful.
Anything else from the board?
What is explain the difference, the low and the high for the additional Wendell site? I understand the runoff portion of things, but how are those numbers different with a local site?
So it deals with the total contribution of those having the early site and whether or not they have runoff elections or not. So that affects the amount that we would pay both on the low versus the high.
Both parts of that.
Yeah, it affects the overall cost of the election. It also affects the early voting.
Voted day of election.
All I can say is that, you started this off with early voting site. It has been important to us in the past. It's certainly not free, and I think we're all having a little bit of sticker shock right now. But local site is important.
Yeah, I'd say that I would opt for having early vote if there is a third way option that includes some sort of early voting, but on a shorter time window that positively impacts that additional cost, then that would be helpful for me to understand, but that's my feedback from what you have right now.
Do you want to get some information and come back in 2 weeks? Is that in the appropriate amount of time for them, for you to respond?
Or do you need it now?
Or do you need to know now? Excellent.
They requested the information by mid-February and gave
You
us
can
the
know now.
information within the last 2 weeks, so.
For standard.
So,
Yes or no?
I'm glad to get the additional information and provide it to the board, and if it substantively changes y'all's thoughts, and y'all let me know, I can bring it back, and, hopefully I'm assuming they haven't adopted the budget and ordered ballots or anything in that 2-week period, so they'll figure a way to make that work.
Well, I'll help you get maybe closer to an answer. I think it sounds like you need an answer from us today. I would say that what you're laying out to us, if this is the full story, despite some of those questions I had, what we're being offered is an opportunity to increase the amount of voting time that's available in our municipal election 11-fold. So I think there's 10 days early voting, so if that number's wrong, but add 10 days to our 1 day that we currently have for twice the price. So pay twice, get 10 times as much, 11 times as much, 12 times as much. I'm for it. I don't think that the other perspectives are wrong. It is expensive, but it's very high on my value list. I think it's a good thing.
I would also be glad to get like number of total voters that participated in the last municipal election. You can divide that by the cost so you see what the value is per voter, and even factor in, population increase. Let's say you get twice as many voters this time due to population increase. I mean, that's, y'all probably know what the precinct numbers were better than I do.
One could also, that we're purely in the policy decision-making space there of people vote the way that they'd like to vote when they'd like to vote, typically if it's been offered to them in a way that's convenient and comfortable. So I am completely with you that it is a lot of money, and that it is a lot of money for what would likely be, statistically speaking, 12 to 13% of the population showing up. But just because 87% of people don't care to participate doesn't mean that we don't continue to try to engage them and have a way for it. I from working the campaign side of things in previous years, know of other counties that do 5 days of early voting in Whiteville, 4 days, or allow their local municipalities to do shorter segments while the county does a larger, or they have regional sites that are there the whole time. And so I was hoping that that would be a solution.
And I will follow up on that.
I would say, just my 2 cents, as someone who participates in early voting, the incredible increased extra cost from that, I don't think I can warrant that for the small percent of people who turn out anyway. I certainly don't think early voting is going to drive up those numbers by any means. And so that would be my standpoint, is host it but not do early voting, unless there's a magical third option that appears.
And a point of clarification on that point, we have to do the first line, right? We don't have an option to not participate in the election.
Correct.
Okay, and so I'm saying first line, I'm looking at this chart, not what's on the screen right now, but.
You guys at the other end of the table are about to get off real easy as soon as you figured that one out.
So there is an early voting site, and it's not too far away from our jurisdiction at 1200 New Hope Road. So just point of clarification, there is early voting. It's just whether or not there's a place, if we had early voting at Wendell Community Center, that again impacts operations there. So one of the considerations as town managers is the operational impact worthy of the.
Can I lay another layer of confusion on top of this? Go Triangle, do they stop at the New Hope Road location? Can we figure out if they do, or if that's something that for that time period they'd be willing to do? Seems like we have buses at least driving past it back and forth
since we're adding additional questions. If they were interested, could Nightdale and Zebulon residents also, if those towns are willing to participate, could their residents also vote early? Because anybody in the county can vote early at any early vote site. So my question is, if we have early vote, then their folks can come vote here. Could we go to those towns and have we talked to them about whether or not they'd be willing to help support it at all?
They're chomping at the bit to help pay.
Well, I would imagine not, but I mean, I'm
No, I
just
get
curious
it.
if the
Yeah.
conversation has
So
happened.
there's very limited number of municipalities that do in the municipal election.
Usually 2 or 3.
Yeah, it's very low. I think Garner and then a couple of the larger ones perhaps. And so I'll provide a list of those who are providing. Given the nature of the questions, I would recommend not providing a recommendation to me tonight, and let's wait the two weeks, and the county staff can wait 2 weeks on the number. But I'd rather y'all make an informed decision rather than rush a decision tonight. Unless y'all feel otherwise inclined, but.
If not making a decision tonight means that, and assuming that somehow that would be yes, I'm not clear that that's the answer. And not doing so would mean that we're missing an opportunity that I heard you say that they wanted to know something by the middle of February, which is this week. Then I would not want to wait 2 weeks. So like a yes, but we can take it back later based on your additional information, or no. I guess that's only if it's a yes. So that, I'm a yes tonight, is what I'm telling you. All these other questions are still things I think are worth talking about, but I'm still a yes tonight.
Can we also know how many people voted early in the last municipal election?
For all the jurisdictions or in
Just
each?
Wendell.
Well, like at the early voting site for Board of Elections? Because there wasn't, oh, you mean in the national and state?
Yeah, it would have to be that, but just.
I would look more at our last municipal,
It didn't have it then.
Had it then, so this is all we have to go by.
I mean, I voted early in Cary the last
But
time,
yeah.
but I mean, you can vote early.
Yeah.
There is a number, but it's like 10 people. It's not a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have a.
Or early, you just have to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And we don't have to pay for it.
Well, and the lack of, like you said, that's a good point you had too with the community center and the capacity of that place to maintain what we already try running through there, and then doing that also, that would limit the ability for that place to be operational for, 10 days there, so.
Not just the side room, it's the gym.
Right, that's what I'm saying, that's shutting down the community center.
Yeah.
So I am firmly in we need some more information camp. However, the more the conversation goes on, I get pushed more and more. There's very few things that we as elected officials, when we swear an oath, are swearing an oath to protect. And one of those is this constitutional right. If you ask me, should people have more access or less access, my answer to that question is going to be more. Are there financial constraints on that? Absolutely. There is a line in the sand somewhere, but what I'm telling you is I don't know it tonight, and but if put in the position of making the decision on the spot, I'm leaning towards yes, do it all, because there is some folks that don't get to New Hope Road. There are people who don't have the ability to transport there. We have people that come to our park. We're building all of our community services here, and every other community service that we provide flows from the people that go to the polls and vote. If we don't honor that very first commitment, it gets a little dicey from there. I understand it's a weird dilemma to discuss because there has to be a financial piece to it. I'm not interested in how many people voted last time and what's it going to be worth, and is it worth that next time. I feel like that's adopting every previous bias that existed and using it to rationalize every future inconsistency. It may be low, and if there's a crowd of folks that show up and say, y'all need to quit funding these early voting sites, hey, maybe that's the line.
I just think that's good to know because I like to know how we're spending our money.
And I appreciate that. We're all trying to find the line in the sand.
Yeah, and it's a lot of money. It is a lot of money, so that's.
I don't think none of us are disagreeing with I think we were all pretty shocked.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, previously we have committed, to making a conscious effort to having an early site. And whether that's for, 20 people or 720 people, we're still providing that opportunity. And that's where my vote will go.
So if I'm taking the straw poll, there's 3, 1. I'm not 100% if.
I'm not in favor of the early voting site.
All right, too.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
And if this makes you gentlemen, makes your decision easier, I will also not be here at next board meeting. So if you guys do not need more information to make your decision, do not wait 2 weeks, because my decision will not be heard next week. So if whether he comes back with anything different, if it's not gonna change your minds, don't send him on work and don't prolong this issue. I mean, it's.
Vote on it now. I'm not gonna change my mind.
I get what you're saying.
Fair.
because
I honestly-
beg
I mean, I don't have to be
people to vote.
wishy-washy. I'll say yes or
I
no.
beg them every 2 weeks to come to public comment. We beg people to vote, and I want to make it easy for them. But if 35 people are gonna vote and it's gonna cost, I don't know, however many.
$114,000.
Yeah, that kind of
Or
makes
100, right.
I mean, that's a lot. I'm just like, oh, wow, that's a lot of money, so.
I'm voting the same I did when I was 18, once a year, one time.
I'll just weigh that with the negative effect, I mean, other citizens would have. I mean, you think about catering to the 12% that come vote. I just think if there's people that, lose ability to community center, they could go vote somewhere else. I mean, I don't know, that's just where I stand, but, everybody, like you said, everybody has their comfort.
Walkers can't walk those days.
I don't wanna face those folks angry.
And since, regardless of, I think, what the answer is tonight, I think whether you spend time, Mark, finding additional answers to these questions or having additional conversations despite having an answer here, I think you're gonna have additional conversations and some questions to have answered, and I think, I know this has been a conversation in the past, but really would continue to revisit and push the, ability of the Board of Elections to use a space other than the entire gym. Still am not convinced that is out of the question. It just doesn't quite make sense.
A room.
Yeah, there are other rooms in that space that can have security offered in a way that should meet their needs.
Door and everything.
So as on this list, add that one, thank you.
Okay, you good?
Mr. Manager, is there a possibility that this building would be vacant by, say, early voting?
Who knows? No promises.
I certainly hope so. I hope it's in other ownership by that time.
I do want to also make a point. I think that last time we talked about early voting and not casting any blame, and I maybe am not remembering this correctly, but I think we decided that we wanted to move forward with it, but we were informed we kind of missed that boat. We missed the opportunity because they had made the decision. I don't want that to happen again. So, and again, I'm not casting any blame, but I feel like that's the way I remember it.
So what I'm hearing right now, kind of a 3-2 vote sentiment, is to convey that the town of Wendell is interested in an early voting site and follow up on questions on checking on shorter time period, the ability of transit to stop is transit stopping at the Wake County site, check on other towns participating, the ability of how many voted early, both in ours and in prior municipal elections, to get a feel for that, and the ability to use a smaller space rather than the large gym. Am I missing anything there? And I would provide that additional information to the board. That that gives the Board of Elections the information they need to submit their budget. And we can always work with the county manager's office if there's some change in temperament prior to them making a final decision, to your point, sir. Did I fairly encapsulate your direction to me?
Is this so absent of the New Hope site, is the Eastern Regional Center a site? Is there another voting site in Eastern Wake County?
No, the only early voting site, they have to provide one under state law, and that's the Wake County Board of Elections site. So that's the one that provides for the whole county, all the municipalities. If municipalities want to do an additional site within their jurisdiction, then they're on the hook, and the more that participate can lower that cost. But it covers the Board of Elections' hard costs for the time period, and I'll verify that. And then, so.
The only nuance to that would be if Zebulon decided to host early voting, right? And that was their location, or Nightdale. It would take one of the other communities hosting it for there to be another early vote site somewhere in the east.
Then it would maybe be at the Eastern Regional Center.
Right, yeah.
Could be wherever Zebulon worked out with the Board of Elections. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move into our other business. The first, update on board committees by town board members, Wendell Volunteer Fire Department, Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think fire department has gotten in some good training recently with a live burn on Main Street in our last board meeting. They were working on the details of that. We've also, you'll see one truck that doesn't look like the same color red as other trucks. We're in a county program where we retired a truck, and there was a truck that another department had that was a lot less miles, so we brought that one in, and we have decided not to repaint it because, like every other thing, we sweat the dollars and cents. And I think that was the highest overview of the last fire board meeting.
Is that it? Triangle J Council of Governments, Commissioner Deloach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will actually add Senior Center after that,
Okay.
if you don't mind. TJ Cog, we met on the 25th of January. It was a virtual meeting and it was in person. We voted to accept Whispering Pines as a new member. There was an introduction, handful of new COG staff members, presentation of the audit, much like we do here. There was a adoption of pay and classification plan, so some HR stuff this time for sure. February meeting was canceled already because there's a conflict, so the next meeting will be in March. As far as the Senior Center goes, we had in-person meeting. There was an onboarding session prior to that, just to kind of outline, what the Senior Center is about and the duties, that kind of thing. Obvious discussion of the health fair, recap of that, what was done right, wrong. Obviously, year 2 is already in the works for that, so wildly successful, and a discussion of the spring fundraiser. So quite a bit covered, and we'll say that the meetings at the Senior Center are run very efficiently, and there are a number of groups and committees to get to. So if committees 1 through 4 get a little long-winded like myself, then they flip that around and start with the later groups the next meeting. So nice addition, keeps everything rolling, and everybody's doing well at the Senior Center.
Okay, thank you. We'll move into our commissioners' reports and start with Commissioner Joyner.
It was an interesting proposal Commissioner Deloach had, I think, to put all development proposals and public hearings at the end of the meeting, based on the Senior Center model. It was a joke. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Have enjoyed a lot of events in Wendell recently. Appreciate Roger and the Chamber. It's really cool to see our business community grow, and see it, shown at things like the Chamber Banquet. So I attended the Chamber Banquet, and that was great. Other items, thank you for your support of the Wendell Rotary Oyster Roast. It was a grand success, and so I appreciate folks being willing to come out to that. I've heard today of 2 other community fundraisers that are coming up. I'm sure someone on this line will catch them. I hope that tomorrow is Valentine's Day, and I overheard a conversation today, and it made me want to encourage everyone, I think first to be kind, and to start with a place of kindness. You never know what the person sitting next to you in the grocery, or standing next to you in the grocery store, or sitting next to you in a town board meeting is going through, what their day has been like, what their life is like, or what their opinion, how they got to that place. Life is about perspective. The only thing that you have control over is how you treat others. And so I'd encourage everyone to take Valentine's as a time to remember to be kind. And while it is a time of love for a lot of people, it's a time of sadness for a lot of people that have had loss in the past year. So remember your friends that may have, this might not be a fun Valentine's for them. And you can tell them that you saw a guy wearing a funny pink coat. Cheer up their day. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Commissioner Lutz?
No comments for tonight.
Commissioner Eatman?
No additional comments.
Commissioner Tornaski?
No comments tonight, Mayor.
Good Lord. Commissioner Deloach?
I'm not sure that I know the upcoming fundraisers that everybody was supposed to talk about, so I apologize.
Contact Dean Castleberry. I know that much.
Okay, so Dean Castleberry, check him out. Madam Mayor, I'll tell you real quick, I know it's late, we need to go, but tomorrow is Valentine's Day. My Valentine and myself have decided to make a trek throughout our fine state. We're going to spend an overnight in each of our 100 counties of North Carolina. So we've already done that, I think, in 11 counties. We have a nice color-coded map on our refrigerator. I think my wife told you a little bit about it at the Chamber Banquet. So exciting times. We get to see lots of cool things in other parts of the state. And I'm constantly taking pictures and sending some of these guys texts about all the fun stuff I see around our state. So excited to share that, bring it back to Wendell. And obviously, wherever I go, I'm repping the cause. So everybody across this state will know where Wendell, North Carolina is. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
I forgot something.
Yeah, go ahead. You let the town manager help you with coloring in that thing, though. Have you seen the chart he has of the town of Wendell?
He does a fine job. He actually inspired me.
Fantastic. So you
I haven't color-coded it in any way other than
take a look
yes
at
and
his
no.
and work on yours. Go ahead.
Only in the spirit of Valentine's Day, since that's our theme, and healthy competition among our fellow board members. My wife and I are traveling to all 100 counties for 2 nights. So we got a map too, so we can compare.
Have a little more time remaining probably, Commissioner Heatman, than I do, so I gotta shorten it up to 1 night.
All right. I haven't had much in a while, so I've got a few things to tell y'all. First is a quick reminder that our Citizen Advisory Board applications, you can apply for those right now. And their assignments will be made in June. The applications are due by April 30th of this year, and the appointments will be made at one of the May 2023 meetings. You can look at the town website and find an application for that. We encourage you to apply and bring to us all your knowledge and your skill and your ability, because we're looking for more people to participate and get engaged with town. The health fair came up, so I was invited to attend the health fair at the Wendell Community Center and welcome the crowd to Wendell. It was organized by Jeannie Griggs and Judy Howell of the Senior Center and Brittany Clark, the Lifestyle Director at Wendell Falls. It's wonderful collaboration between 2 entities that are spread apart a bit. It was a wonderful event, well attended, one-stop shopping for lots of services for people of all ages. They're really placing an emphasis on multi-generational things, and I think that there was a lot of that went on there. Meet on Main continues to work hard and has chosen their dates and actually booked the bands for the next set of events. Some of them are bigger names than in the past. They're gonna be making those announcements soon. I don't wanna jump in line and tell those things. I'm not trying to be coy, but that's their news to tell, and I want them to tell it. So they have a lot of exciting things planned, so be ready for that. I attended this past week the winter meeting of the North Carolina Mayors Association on Thursday and Friday in Raleigh. There was a lot of great information and networking opportunities, and I got to chat with a lot of mayors that I've known for a while and some brand new ones as well. It was the first in-person of that size since COVID, so it was nice for everybody to get back together again, and it was really nice. One thing that I did know, that they had a lot of lists that they were throwing up on screens and things, and Wendell was on the top of several lists that are good to be on the top of. So I was particularly proud of that, and we've come a long ways in the last half dozen or so years, I would say, and accomplished a lot of things. I'm really proud of it, and I appreciate town staff and all of you. I see y'all kind of hiding over there. Their efforts to make those things happen, because it wouldn't happen without them. So thank y'all for that. Really, I appreciate it. We got a lot of pats on the back, and I was so proud. It would flash up and it would say Wendell at the top, and I was like, yes. So we were being used as the example of how to do things and do them well. So that made me really proud. The chamber banquet, I already thanked Roger, but I'll thank him again for a lovely evening showcasing Wendell. Congratulations to all the winners, especially Mr. Warren Boyette, who won the Mayor's Award. If you don't know him, you should take the time to get to know Mr. Boyette. He recently retired from our tree board, but he is our go-to person for things like that. And the person who nominated him wrote in the letter that anything that you saw that was beautiful around town had his hand in it. And I thought that was really very nice. So, one other thing I want to tell you real quickly. I was invited to and attended the Eastwake High School mid-year graduation. I know y'all have heard me say this before, but I always enjoy that event. These are tenacious kids. They have either worked really, really hard and graduated early, a handful, or they've had events that have been hurdles in their way of whatever kind, and they have stuck it out and didn't quit. And I have tremendous admiration for them. I'm very proud of them, and I'm certain that both groups are going to be great ambassadors for our town when they get out into the world. I'm really proud of all of them. I talked to several of them that night and asked them what their next plans were, and many were going to WATEC. So I was really pleased to hear that. And several had jobs, 2 or 3 in the service, the military. So they're great kids out there. So if you know of any of them, congratulate them. And one last thing, I wanted to recognize Eastwake High School. The Eastwake High School women's track and field team is the 2023 Quad County 3A undefeated champions this year. The Eastwake High School JV basketball team is the 2023 Quad County 3A, and they told me back-to-back champions. They're 14-0. They're back-to-back champions. And the Eastwake High School varsity men's basketball team is the 2023 Quad County varsity champions. So they have won, apparently they've won some big tournaments, and they're very excited about it. I don't think the conference play is over yet, but congratulations to them for that. I think that when we talk about schools and things like that, we're certainly, and I'm a school nerd. I love school, and I love everything about it. But there's more to school, at least for high school age kids and middle-aged kids. Sports are important and other extracurricular things, and I'm pleased to see that our high school is succeeding, because there's nothing wrong with that, and it's fun to win. And it's fun to be competitive and be proud of your school. So we're definitely heading in a good direction with that. Congratulations to all of them. Well done. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, we're adjourned.